clear. If they did that, you could have had an English that was going to be a winter third party there, and then Vampires says, you know what, you guys are taking so long, we'll take over. Yeah, I thought that was going to be it.
And with that being said, let's head over to the teams to watch for game number 2, where we have the picks from these beautiful analysts already here. I gotta see, it's DRS again for Maxman. Maxman, come to explain. I mean, there's not much to explain, is there? But yeah, I just don't tell me about it, you know? I just like the confidence they were showing in that game, because like DRS in the past, like of course this is a completely different roster, but when we used to see teams from the power, they're like, not teams that are known for being like, okay, we're gonna put our foot down, this is our position, if you try and push it, you're gonna lose. And I love that kind of mentality from them in the Miramar. Yeah, makes sense, Miramar. That's why I put it in time out. Yeah, it's like Miramar, you got Nova, it kind of like 1 + 1 = 2. And I bet that, even I can tell that. Okay? Don't look at me. Looks like it's going to be Wolves on their own right now, let's be honest. Potentially shared between Vampire and T2K, but T2K a little bit further north and might not even challenge for it instead. You can't always judge a book by its cover. The enemy survival happening, not just in the game. It's on the surviving here as well. Exactly. Yeah. Like Gale wins of Antarctic freezing possibility. But obviously, these teams must be nice and happy. They can pretend they're in Miramar. I can pretend I'm in Miramar. Yes, you can. That nice hate. Oh, you know, it's just taking over my brain. You're just gonna get jealous if you think I really am. Western.
7 start to strike out too early though, or a little bit too late, and then they stumble, they falter. That's when the engine starts to, get caught up a little bit, starts to choke and gurgle. And I think Alpha 7 needs to really avoid those type of situations and maybe come to a dead stop, reevaluate, and then go again from step 1.
Fuel not quite mixing there properly for the Inc.
We know that they are. We've seen them perform at that kind of level. But I think for Chinese teams, it's about that adaptation. Now, 4AM and Nova's been adapting for the last month towards this playstyle. Wolves has kind of had a day, right? They've had a couple of days maybe in test matches, results, rehearsals. So I do think that maybe
as are plenty of other teams, to be fair, at this stage, an early lead is great to be able to secure. Flux are down to 2, a really nice crossfire, a forwards
disastrous result
is alive. Skirting around T2K. Looking to just peek over this ridge line, get a little bit of control. They've spread out 2 and 2. Just needs to stay alive, and they can move in and play this one smart. They should see that Delta's...
That position maybe had to happen a little bit sooner, but with...
And will continue to do so. Paraboy now, looking to try...
Out from a top hat, Kenzo, Sky Only, very good at holding down the battlefield. Sky Only is this player that's always been so manipulative of a lot of players within the circle itself.
But playing with 3 shots, really tearing into Influence Kemin now, as Inco have turned their attention their way just that little bit. For 8 eliminations. Crosshairs, that's not going to work out. Unfortunately, there's not even a trade to be seen. Now 2 players active for Alpha 7. 4 eliminations on the game. Mafioso and Revo now with it all to do for the squad. Inco, they took 2nd in the first match of today. They're looking to try and put up that 1st place here on Miramar. Alpha 7, arguably specialists here on Miramar though. So even with a duo, they are certainly a force to be feared. Mafioso goes down. In the meantime, Revo now last standing for Alpha 7, and it's not long for it. It is
really
Hold their head around La Bandita, that we mentioned a little bit before that break, was really interesting. And I think that, no, first game, just a little bit silent. It's just one game, right? It happens. But that game, they were just like really reading that circle down to almost perfection. Sure, Inco were just, Vitali was just a bit too strong at that moment. But I would say the macro play was Vitali was just a bit too strong at that moment. But I would say the macro play was
No, it's a little bit more tricky to make that sort of call, and often you can really kind of get scuppered by that shift if it comes in too late, or if you've made the wrong call. I say wrong call. If you've made the unfortunate,
the executive call,
the executive call to go to the place where the circle didn't end up going. For sure.
And I think that's what makes it very difficult. So this is kind of sometimes a toss-up. Sometimes it is just. I would say this game doesn't really. It favors more the fraggers than it does the IGLs a lot of times. I think you still have to have a very good IGL, but you also need to have those very good fraggers on the team if you want to perform and get those massive points available to you.
Teams loading on up. Good spirits in the S2G camp. Good to see, good to see.
Really been 2 matches, these things can happen. We could be towards the bottom, but we could easily get a 30-point game and be towards that top. On this 3rd match alone, so I think for some of these teams it does become quite
far. They have been getting it done for us. The Northwestern Island a little bit further removed from anything else, but they will be just fine to be able to get on over there.
It's been easy.
Buddha might be in their way, might be able to catch a player off though on that flip up as well, and now Influence Kemen can start to marshal their forces properly. Potato close, isolated as well from the rest of alter egos, and it's going well so far for Influence Kemen. Federal around the side of the rock, looks for the challenge, looks for the spray of course. Potato has backup from that team spray down, and Vampire now aware of the position to their threat on their western side. Godless looking in through those doors, peeking in, but not really taking any challenges just yet. Both teams on that northern side will start
doing before, which was right on the edge of the blue instead.
For them, but needs to leverage properly. Action half HP. Fireflux aren't too far away. Potential to third party in the engagement, but the nades from Action need to be on point. He's only got one over in the back. Needs to hold this line on the wall. Paraboy will spot the player crawling out, and Action shut down.
Paraboy predicted that entire rotation coming through from Stalwart. He even looks for another. Really, really on the money there was Paraboy. Not a single movement or tactic was missed from him. Keeping the rest of his boys in check there.
All swings and roundabouts, it's all impacting one another, and Geek Fam cannot quite win out that challenge. Pombet stays alive for the home team. A really important factor there for Alpha 7's hold, especially against S2G, as Silas gets spotted, but there's an AWM in play. It sees Hansi and claps. Would. At the start of the game, the gap was
duo that you would want together for Geek Fam to try and finish this out.
With the changes that were implemented onto Sandhawk circles, the damage is too great to out-heal, which is why we've only got 3 teams remaining now in zone. Pressure, Geek Fam going down as well. Alpha 7 starkly
dealt with the threat from the south, and I think for Alpha 7 that from there it was just a case of clearing out those players on each and every single side. Obviously, this is a team that's extremely serious. This is what they expect to put up. This is
29 total points, and that especially is in a fashion.
Yes! The aggressors that we saw out of this team, especially with Sandhawk, and this is something that, if we go back, we were kind of talking about it too, saying how some teams can actually use Sandhawk
to break off that bad stretch that they were having in those first 2 matches. I felt like GFAM was kind of falling with it. If we go back, we were kind of talking.
If it comes in too late, or if you've made the wrong call, I say wrong call, if you've far, they have been getting it done for us. The Northwestern Island a little.
You haven't been picking them because you don't want to curse them, but I think it might actually help them out a little bit.
Got to support the viewership. Let's go.
Coming back to who actually won that game, because we have only barely touched on A7, and I feel like we've not done them enough justice on the stats so far. A7, how they controlled that compound, how they controlled everything around that compound especially. What stood out to you the most, and maybe was there anything particularly looking forward for? Because, for example, something that I have noticed, Carrillo, after the game, he did not look happy at all. He was, I think he was devastated that he got flushed there in the end, and it did not seem like he was in a good mood.
I gotta say, I appreciate the pronunciation. Carrillo. Hey, Carrillo. They roll that R pretty well. But yeah, I think that Carrillo unfortunately got taken out a little bit early in the game. But the way they control that trifecta compound, 2-1-1 split, making sure no team had the opportunity to take that compound away, that was the key play from them. They know so well how to play those specific areas to make sure that if a team breaches them, they will be ready to defend.
Pretty hard shift here, Blank, at the start of things. Certainly going to be a competition to be able to get out to that west side.
Absolutely. And they want to win that competition. No awards yet, though. Only the competition. Only the competition here to get through over towards that western side. Massive clump of teams over on the eastern side. I think this is where it becomes a little bit more difficult because